Hi everybody, it's Eileen back again, and it's been a little while since my last video, which was actually last year, and we're now in spring, and as you can see in the background, spring has definitely, well and truly, sprung. The apple trees are in blossom, and there's all sorts of things popping up, some expectedly and some not so expectedly. So I suppose the big thing, moving on from last year, because last year was the first year with the raised beds, is to have a bit of a review and think about what worked and what didn't really work. Bearing in mind my reluctance to become a girly spot and read lots of books about gardening and become a sort of expert. No disrespect to all the gardening experts, but yeah, in my day job, which is like holistic therapist, I've been doing that for years and years and years and years. I've done, and I love it, by the way. I love what I do. I've done so much swatting and so many exams and cramming and case studies and online this and online that, and I've got books and books and books and books on different stuff. I think with the gardening, I just like to keep it a bit more sort of in the moment, maybe a bit more sort of ad hoc. I can just wander out here and look around and think, today I'm gonna do this, and there's no real plan to it apart from keeping tabs on some of my favourite YouTube channels and getting prompts on what I shoulda, coulda, woulda be planting when, and ideas on how to do things a bit more creatively, bearing in mind sustainability and I've forgotten that blooming word again. I'm a shocker for that. Permaculture. Permaculture. And, learning how to repurpose stuff instead of always put it in the council garden waste bin or whatever it is. So, that said, lessons from last year are mainly to make sure I kept a plan of what I planted when as I went along, because as I found it quickly forgot, especially when you think something's died, and as it turns out the following year it hasn't, because it pops back up again. Case in point, my Babington Leeks that I got last year, and I can't for the life of me remember where I stuck them in, but they seemed to die, and I thought, blooming heck, I'm not buying them again. And anyway, this year, to restore my faith in nature, something that looks remarkably like it could be leeks has popped up in the raised bed number 4 behind me. So I think that could be them, but I can't remember planting them there. So lessons from last year are keep a plan of what I put where and when, which will probably also help me with like rotating stuff a bit. Although I don't think that's so important when you've got really fresh new beds and fresh compost and everything. And then the other one is like labelling things properly, and make sure I do label things properly and not do what I've already done this year in the old potting shed behind me, which was to write Brussels on one side of a label, and on the reverse side of it Right, broccoli. I know they both begin with a B, but they're quite different, aren't they? So now I've no idea whether I've got a tray full of Brussels or broccoli coming out. Well, I don't know what the seedlings look like. They all look a bit the same, don't they? You know? Anyway, labelling and keeping the plant. And I don't know if you can see really from these beds, but the level has sunk quite a lot since last year. So before I really get stuck into them, I need to top up the levels. So I think I'm gonna probably, I might have a bit of mulch from gathered up leaves and lawn mowing, so I'll probably put some of that on hither and thither. And I've also got some wool compost for topping the beds off, and a multi-purpose mix. So I'm really probably gonna, and I've got a bit of topsoil as well lurking from last year when we did all the digging out of paths and stuff. So I'm probably just going to do a bit of a mix, I think, to top the beds up, which makes it quite cost effective really. Plus, another bonus is I've got some of my own compost actually happening now. I've got one big green, those compost bins, you know, you lift the lid off, shove stuff in, and in so many months out to the bottom you can shovel this stuff that's compost. Might have a few twigs in it, but you know, all good stuff. And I can mix it in with other compost and bulk it up a bit. And also another excellent thing that I'm really enjoying is the wormery. So I've got a little wormery, haven't shown you that yet, which is basically just a load of 4 or 5 trays with a lid on the top, and little holes in the trays so you can layer them up, and you just chuck your kitchen scraps in at the top one. All the little worms that live in there get really busy on it and turn it all into compost, so you just keep rotating the trays, and you know, get the next tray, chuck your kitchen scraps in. When that's full, get the next tray, blah blah blah. And so out to the bottom in time you get some really gorgeous compost that's really, like, fine, soggy admittedly, but it's gorgeous stuff. And the added bonus is there's a little tap at the very bottom of the wormery where you can collect, pour off the juices that accumulate. And when they're marketing these wormery things, they call it worm pea, but I can't for the life of me imagine it's actually worm pea. It's probably just, you know, that's a marketing thing, isn't it? I think. Don't quote me on that, that's just my thoughts. But anyway, when you pour it off, you get this really stinky liquid that makes a really nice, rich fertiliser, you know, plant food. So I've been collecting mine in litre bottles, and you just put some in the watering can to a ratio about 1 measure worm pea to 10 measures of water, something like that, and you've got your own homemade liquid plant food, which is ace. I just think they're great. I love them to bits. I'm always picking worms out the garden and putting them in there, and then that's probably a mistake, because then I learnt that the worms in your garden are actually fairly solitary worms, and they don't really do the party scene, whereas the ones in the wormery are like all in for a worm orgy festival, whatever it is. They're all piling on top of each other and making compost. They can't get enough of it. So anyway, who'd have thought that worms were so interesting? So blah blah blah. Yeah, so I've got my own compost coming online as well. I love that because you know, compost isn't a cheap item, is it? So if you can mix and match a bit and add your own in. We did originally in the garden design have two big compost bays at the very bottom down there, with the idea that, you know, you can put your really woody stuff in and give it a good fork over and rotate it so that you can get a little system going with your composting. But as ever, the second bit has got repurposed and is being used for something else. So I've got my one compost bin made from pallets down there. I've got my green plastic one that came from the garden centre or something. That actually rots down really quickly, and then I've got my little worms, and it's all good fun. I'm not quite self-sufficient in the compost department, but you know, we're getting there. I've been making leaf mulch and stuff. So I think that's it learning wise. Plans, labels, what else? Salad crops that made it through the winter. My perennial salad crops. I've got one confession to make though, and that was that my Minutina buckthorn plantain plant that I think was the star of about every single video last year. I was always pointing at it going, oh, look at my lovely buckthorn blah blah that I can't remember the name of, because it was such a big bushy thing. Over winter I killed it, and I thought it was looking a bit battered, so I moved it, and apparently they don't like having the roots piddled about with. Anyway, it died. So I did take some seeds off it before it died, and I've tried planting them, but nothing's sprouting yet. So the last time I went down to Erst up in Belper, I did actually buy one. So I've treated myself and splashed out in a whole new Minutina. So that's there. And I've got a kale from last year. At the moment, what I'm pondering is what to plant where. And so I've got my 3 beds here, 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one behind me that has already got the what's it? Oh God, what are they called? It'll come back into my head in a minute. Something. Anyway, something in it that's about 3 years old and not quite ready to harvest yet. No, that's gone. And the other 3/4 of it is got some shallots and onions in it. As I've been watching Bennett Grow Veg on YouTube a few months back, and he said now's a great time to get your shallots and onions in, particularly shallots, and I thought, shallots. Don't think I've tried growing them before, so dutifully went and got a bag of shallot little things, and I've stuck them in. So in that bed I've got my shallots, onions, my Babington Leeks that miraculously appeared at Easter time. Not that I'm overly religious or anything, but I thought it was quite funny. So they came again at Easter, and oh, what a flipping... The other plants I can't remember the name of. I'm not bothered that I can't remember the names of things, because I think when you get... I don't think it is an age thing, because people can get a bit forgetful if they're, you know, if they're a bit stressed, or if they're on specific medications or stuff like that. I just think you get so much data going in there that sometimes the old retrieval system takes a little while, putting all the relevant info back out again. And yeah, that's it really. Anyway, so initial task is to top up the beds, decide which one's going to be for what. I'm tempted with the idea of doing a scatter bed this year. So I was watching Nettles and Petals YouTube channel, and the chap there, I can't remember ever coming across his name. He was demonstrating what he'd done with a scatter bed, and he'd literally just got some, like marigold seeds, beetroot, all sorts of things, and he'd literally do what it sounds like: scatter them in, water them in, to see what pops up when, and make the most of them as you go along and as they pop up. And I thought, I like that idea as well. It's a bit creative, and I like that. But of the other beds, one's going to be mostly salad, and the other one's going to be mostly cabbages and stuff like that. Got the word again. Anyway, not important. So, but getting lots of ideas on what to do in the garden. Over the longer term ahead, and one thing I want to do definitely is, having been given a book on moths at Christmas, was to really make sure I've got a really nice dedicated area for insects, and having a different little ecosystem happening down there. So I'm going to do that, because I've got some old tree stumps down there, and I was watching Simon Ackroyd on, such a name dropper, I know, on YouTube, and he was showing this this Victorian thing called a fernery, or a stumpery. Fernery, I think. Where you got this pile of old stumps and made it into something rather beautiful by adding ferns and stuff. And I was looking at the stumps that we've got festering away down there, and there is actually a foxglove growing all by itself on it, and some periwinkle creeping over it, which is giving it a lovely little... And it's just delightful. I thought, I'm going to make a bit more of that, and make it a bit more of a insect draw, and perhaps somewhere that moths would like to, spend the winter in their chrysalis form, if they would like to do so. And I'm going to drag down top here, lurking at this end of the garden, which is very rarely in shot, but one of those big wooden barrel things that's just full of water. But it makes a really nice little pond. So that's going to go down there and be a little water feature. Eventually it'll get replaced by proper pond, like proper deep pond, but hopefully this year I'll get the old barrel down there and set it up so, you know, we can start to attract a wider range of insects. Wouldn't that be jolly? So, yes, lots of creative ideas popping in, and I'm just enjoying coming out here and tootling around. I never usually have a particular plan. I just sort of get in the moment and think, what do I fancy doing today? It makes me feel sort of in the flow. So yeah, that's what it's all about for me. It's a bit of self-care really, and a bit of time for quality time for yourself in nature, because you can hear the drone of the traffic in the background and the old train going through, but and of course the odd aircraft, helicopter. Seems to be a few of those whizzing around. But other than that, it's just the sound of the birds. They're all shut up now. I've decided to stop and listen to them. So that's probably all for now. That's a spring update, and I'll do another one because, as I say, I've got some ideas, and I really need to get stuck in with some planting, because my potting shed is rampant with little seedlings that who knows what they'll turn out to be, most of them. But definitely some tomatoes and Brussels sprouts and purple sprouting broccoli and the odd sunflowers and stuff, all waiting to be unleashed really. So much fun to be had, I feel. And yes, for people that asked, yes, I did get to eat my own homegrown Brussels sprouts and red cabbage on my Christmas dinner. Thank you for asking. And as an aside on Brussels sprouts, I don't know if you can see them. Are they there? I can't do it in reverse. There are actually some Brussels that I left outside all winter, just because I was interested to see what happened to them, and the pigeons are like pecking at them. And they've turned into these lovely little bouquets of yellow flowers that the bees have already been showing a lot of interest in this year, and some of the butterflies as well. And I thought, well, that's worth doing every year, isn't it? Is leave a couple of Brussels sprouts in just to, you know, hold fort over winter and be amongst the first of the pollen providers the following year. And I just think they're exceptionally pretty. So I'm going to do that every year. I'm going to leave a Brussels sprout or two to fester over winter, to provide pickings for the pigeons, but also to provide early flowers for the little insects that choose to do so. Who would have thought it? Brussels sprouts. Anyway, with that then, I'm getting too hot now, so I have to go in and make sure all my little seeds are not frazzling in the potting shed, which has also happened already this week. I did have some cucumbers and it got a bit too hot in there and they all died. So I will be back again in a wee while, probably in a few weeks, when there's something interesting, hopefully, to talk about instead of just a load of me waffling. So thanks for checking in, and I hope you're enjoying your own garden, and maybe we can share some creative ideas this year, and have fun with your garden, whatever it may be, a few containers or you know, if you're lucky enough to have a big garden or an allotment or something like that. And check back with you again soon. So, bye for now. Bye bye.